Well, Canada's going to be having an election on April 28th. Oh, it's going to be an interesting one, folks. It's really going to be an interesting one. This is going to be one of the tightest elections in recent memory. Yeah, I mean, so definitely tighten your seatbelts and vote for who you think is going to best represent your needs in the federal election. I mean, for persons with disabilities, well, we're going to pile into that in the show. Who's going to be best suited to represent your needs as a person with disabilities in Canada? Yeah, so April 28th, today's show, we're going to be talking about all that stuff, and it's going to be the fight night on April 28th. Wow, get the popcorn out and get ready. We'll talk about this next. Stay tuned. Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to PWD Allies podcast. My name is Brent Frayne. I'm brought to you by Victoria, British Columbia. That's where I'm broadcasting from today in the capital region of Victoria, of BC. Yeah, we've got lots to pile in today. We're going to be talking about the Canada election coming up on April 28th. There's lots of candidates to choose from. Are you going to vote for the party? Or are you going to vote for the candidate in your riding? Definitely, who's going to represent your needs if you're a person with disabilities or you're an ally to a person with disabilities? Does it affect your life? I mean, affordability, housing crisis, you name it. We're going to pile into all these topics. And joining me today is my editor, producer, Neil Matheson, along with Dan Trayes from Toronto. Hello, Dan, and MJ is joining me from the Okanagan of British Columbia. How you doing, everybody?
Good.
Great. How you guys doing?
Don't all answer at once.
Doing great.
Okay, good.
Life takes unexpected turns, up and downs.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Had to say adios to my dog last month, and
Oh, wow.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
hard.
after 13 years, man, that's a hard thing. So
My condolences to you, MJ.
They become like family, right? It's hard.
They are family. Animals become family. You spend your time, your money, and all the rest of that stuff. And people think, oh well, animals are expensive. It's like, yeah, but I've always thought as a person that if you're going to go and think about having a family at any time in your life, get animals and a few of them.
Well, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Condolences about your dog there, man. I know if you had have asked me 5 years ago if I'd be sitting here with a dog right now, I'd tell you you're out of your tree, right? But they bring so much to your mental health stability.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So I mean, I've been, dealing with that. I've been going in, as I was talking before the show, I'm playing with some music AI generation software to go and have a little fun. I've got different styles I work with, and I've ranged from like thrash metal right over to country to the second song I shared before. It's basically trolling the government about MAiD, because I don't particularly like the idea of how they're going and suggesting that. I'm gonna get that out of the way, and since we're talking about people on disabilities,
Maybe
right?
you can make a AI generated theme song for the elections Canada.
I've got a few of them that are
It might be censored, Dan.
they're pretty dark. I mean,
Imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. When some of the one I shared with Neil, it was pretty dark.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like I was sharing with MJ, the AI kind of freaks me out. I mean, we had Minnie on her own episode, a couple shows ago, and she was talking about the AI thumbnails, and
Mhm.
even that scares the shit out of me, right? Because I mean, like, I'm dating myself, but like, one of my favorite movies growing up was Terminator, and that was
Oh, yeah.
way back in
Back.
way back in '84. And at that time, like, I just thought, well, this is just a cool piece of science fiction. Well, I mean, fast forward 40 years now, and we're looking at, like, it's not science fiction anymore. I mean,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
like scary how much it's lining up, right? Anyway, we're getting off track a little bit, but let's get into this, because I mean, one of the reasons why we wanted to do this show, and I've let Dan and MJ know, and I mean, you and I have talked about this. From what I can tell, the narrative on Twitter, and again, I mean, I don't go on Twitter a ton, because I mean, I'm just on it we're just on it because we have the PWD Allies account now. But
Yeah.
but I'm just kind of following the temperature on kind of what's online, and there's a lot of fear. It seems to me, a lot of fear for people voting conservative. They're saying, don't vote conservative. You know, and I don't really know where that's coming from. I mean, maybe it's coming from people that are anti-Trump, or maybe it's coming from people that are anti Doug Ford. You know, the conservatives are bad. You know, and I kind of get it. I do. But at the same time, like, these are two different people, two different parties, and yeah. So let's start there. Anyway,
Let's talk about my experience on Threads for a second in comparison, because that's where a lot of liberals and former NDPers are, and they're saying exactly the same thing. And when you talk about fear, it's there as well, right? The fear is there, and that's part of the problem. Is I'm sitting here seeing the fear on both sides, and it's not just a one-sided thing. It's both sides that are very fearful about the other side, and I think this is I think it's part of conditioning that we're getting, you know, about fearing other people's ideas. And that's, I think in that alone, that becomes an extremely concerning point, in my opinion. When you start causing people to have fear and anxiety about another person's idea, you're creating a situation where people will be losing their mind, or voting irrationally, or whatever it is. It's not a left or a right thing. It's both sides equally.
Kind of a balanced approach there. Like, it's,
well, the fear is being thrown at both parties about don't vote for the other guy.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So both sides are being psyoped with
like
fear.
a tug of war.
Well, it's a lot of psyoping people with fear.
Yeah,
and that's what's really going on.
Yeah.
And I'll agree with what MJ says there, right? You got to give everybody the opportunity to speak to you and develop your own opinion on the platform.
Yep.
So as I might have told people before, I voted Liberal, but I didn't actually vote yet. I told people that because I didn't want to hear it for the next fucking 3 weeks or whatever it was, right? I'm more than willing to, I don't belong to any party, right? Just for other people that don't know. So I'm more than willing to give the PC party a chance. And the only reason I personally only bring up PC and Liberal is because in my actual area, there actually isn't, and I'll say it like this, and you'll know what I mean, but there isn't a Green Party or an NDP member to look at. There's one NDP sign out there. There hasn't been nobody at our door from any parties, which is why personally I decided to take that extra step and join upon Vince Sparrow's opportunity to become the next MP here in Eglinton Lawrence. Otherwise, I wouldn't care. I don't have those same fears because I don't drive, I don't travel, I don't have my kids at home. I'm good. But the points that MJ brought up are exactly bang on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, just to kind of elaborate on that, like what I'm hearing in my community, you know, people are fearing of, well, like they're playing on the emotion of, well, if you vote for me, you're going to split the vote, you know, you're going to take away from the other party. Now they know that, and then there's nothing against any political party. I want people to understand this. Like, you know, it's not saying don't vote for the Greens or don't vote for the NDP, but at the same time, they know that the NDP is not going to, the leader is not going to make a prime minister, right? So they both, the Conservative Party have really been hammering about affordability, right? The NDP, the leader's been hammering away about affordability. People are suffering, they're hurting now, but they know that he doesn't stand a chance of getting as being prime minister. So now they're automatically going to start leaning to the Conservatives, where now you got Mark Carney for the Liberal Party. Yeah, he's been touching about affordability. I'm going to give people a price break on their homes, this and that. Well, how is that for the middle class? But how is that going to help the general population in Canada who are maybe low income or ultra low income, or maybe barely meeting that middle class? I mean, in my view, I don't think there's no middle class anymore anyway. It's the poor or the rich, right?
There's the working poor,
it's
the rich.
It's all the mushy middle.
Yeah.
Right.
So when people look at it and they say, well, but he's going to give me a tax break on my home. I mean, everyone needs a home. Okay, what about renters? I mean, and so the other parties are more focusing about the everyday people. So they kind of migrate toward the CPC. And so, I mean, that's what I'm seeing and hearing in my community. And sadly, it's taken away votes from the NDP, who are, I mean, they're trying to, to show that, hey, like we care, but their seat count is really going down. I mean, they're really plummeting in the polls. Now, of course, that's what mainstream media is throwing out there right now. Like the Liberals are pulling up in the polls.
Well, that's what I was going to say too. It's interesting when you look at the mainstream media, you can tell which outlets are polling for which party, right?
Yeah.
you can totally tell.
Right.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to say quickly on the polling. I mean, when we take a look at polling, you have to go back to Saskatchewan, where they had a 20-point variance based on the polling, saying that the NDP was going to win, or was it Manitoba? Can't remember which one. And no, Saskatchewan. They say that the NDP was going to win, but the Saskatchewan party came out like 25 points off of what the polls said. Mm-hmm. So I believe, my personal opinion, and I will say my personal opinion, is people are lying to the pollsters. I believe they're lying to the pollsters.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
I had a canvasser come near my building because they can't get in unless somebody allows them in. And they were kind of pacing back and forth, I guess, trying to figure out where to go next. And I said, "Oh, you lost? Oh, we're with the Liberal Party of Canada." I said, "Oh, yeah. So what are you going to do for persons with disabilities in your campaign?" Yeah, that's a good question. I said, "It is a good question. You're not the candidate?" No, we're just canvassers. I go, "Do you know anything about people with disabilities?" I think my friend's sister has a disability. So it could affect you. You're like an ally then. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So in your view, what would you like to see? I don't know. Maybe make things more accessible. What about the Canada Disability Benefit? What's that? Like, wow, you don't even know what the Canada Disability Benefit is, and you're representing as a canvasser. You may want to talk to your leader to get educated about that. I said, have a good day.
You know what part of that problem is too, just coming from a personal experience of canvassing for, I don't know, the past couple of decades.
Yeah.
It's like polls don't mean shit until election day. That's the only right thing that Rob Ford used to say, right? Mm-hmm. Here's just a quick example, right? The last municipal election, I guessed 25 out of 26 here in Toronto, and I guessed the Saskatchewan election within 1 percentage point. So to my understanding, there's 343 seats here. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go Liberals 200. I'm going to go PC 99. Bloc 25, NDP 15, Green Party 3, and 1 for other, just in case.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, the numbers on 338 show Elizabeth May losing her seat. They show Jagmeet Singh losing her seat, or his seat. Like, we're talking about 2 leaders losing their seats just, in an election. I mean, if the Bloc Québécois had...
but I've also heard reports of both the Liberal and Conservative losing their seat too. So, I mean, you really can't trust some of this stuff. Yeah.
I've heard the same thing about Pierre Poilievre's riding as well.
Yeah.
And it's like...
And Carney as well, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, what if all 4 leaders lost their seats in
Oh,
this
man.
election.
Imagine-
The parties got elected. That would be
Oh.
like the whole the coup de grace of insanity that we could see for an outcome. It's like we didn't like
Wow.
the leaders, but we liked what the parties had to offer.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump back to what you were saying earlier, though, Brent. Let's keep the focus on people with disabilities, because this is what this podcast is about. So let's talk about what the platforms talk about people with disabilities, or they don't. I would say I haven't heard a lot.
I sent you on your messenger over at MJ. You've got a copy of it too. It shows you a breakdown on the platform on what they're going to be talking about. If you want to pull that up, Neil or MJ.
Yeah, I gave you the screen share if you want to screen share.
Oh, it's okay. Here it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. Basically, the breakdown on the parties, political parties for the federal election of April 28th, 2025. And these are then basically what we're going to be doing is sharing a copy of where the parties stand on their talking points on the Canadians with disabilities. It's interesting to kind of go over that part.
Hey, do you remember, what was it, about 3 or 4 years ago you guys got started?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And did somebody tell you that this was going to be an election issue down the road?
Yeah.
Joe,
I'm happy to see what MJ's pulling up here.
Yeah, Joe spoke that one out, actually. He said this is going to be an election issue. I remember that.
Well, yeah, and it's just so sad because year after year after decade, fucking PWD, yes, I'm going to try to stop cursing, but PWD, seniors, all of us, in like, we get nowhere. We get nothing extra. In fact, what a lot of people don't know, just in case you're not aware of, is that actually this year, March 1st, I believe it was, OW and ODSP merged together. So it's now all being run by a screwed up provincial government. This is why this decision this year, this federal election is very important, because I'd much rather go of the viewpoint of MJ there, whereas like more or less government gets in the way, right? But the fact of the matter is it's not going to go anywhere. There's always going to be an election unless something happens outside of our lifetime. So we got to start focusing on people as people and not a business.
Exactly. You got to focus on the now, on the immediate, issues that are affecting people's lives at the immediate. Because the elections are the elections. You're right. You're right on that one, Dan. And that's out of a lot of people's control. I mean, it comes down to like the small margin of error in certain areas that will control that narrative. However, this time around, I was hearing on the news this morning that they're saying that even in BC right now, normally it's usually between Manitoba and Ontario. Usually they control that narrative of who's really going to win the federal election. But now they're saying that in BC could really be the actual decision makers. Because the federal government is relying on.
How is the screen share working there?
I got it. I just have to pull it up here.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
Here we are.
See if you can you zoom in a little bit so.
Okay. Let's see if I can zoom in here
without really losing. Maybe it's hard to zoom in, but try to zoom in a tiny bit without losing the important bits.
Okay, I'm zooming in. Okay, we still have clear words here.
Yeah.
So we're at the very top here with the NDP, or the Liberals and the Conservatives.
So the Liberal Party will review and broaden the disability tax credit to ease access to the Canada Disability Benefit, and then create a disability justice framework to address systemic discrimination in the justice system, support employment through the apprenticeship service bonus for workers in Reed Seal trades with disabilities.
That's supposed to be Red Seal.
Red Seal. I was going to say it doesn't make sense.
But that most of those Red Seal jobs are physical labor. Most of us can't do physical labor.
Exactly.
Right? Which is kind of useless.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's true. It's true. You just said something Captain Obvious there, MJ. grow the enabling accessibility fund and require new federally funded housing to be barrier free. Provide 10 billion in low cost housing loans, including for accessible units, and make Canadian publishers provide accessible copies of all ebooks produced and released in Canada by 2030. So that's the Liberal Party of Canada.
Okay, can we go and discuss this here?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. What I don't see here in all of this is home ownership. I see rentals. I don't know if that's what you're seeing over there, guys, but I see rentals.
Exactly.
I don't see the chance of having home ownership with what the Liberals are talking about right now. And my problem is why is it that people with disabilities, here's a good question for you parties, why is it with people with disabilities are relegated to being renters in an uncertain market and not have the ability to have home ownership? In BC, a single person can have, what is it, $100,000 of assets? Before, there's no house that is $100,000. Not even a good fifth wheel is $100,000.
Yeah.
Like, let's be realistic. So they're not working to give us home ownership.
Yeah.
Right. So anyways, let's go on to the Conservatives here. What do you think? Well, Dan, what are your thoughts on what the Liberals are talking about so far?
Well, I mean, like when it comes to supporting programs for people to get those, special skills, we got a lot of building coming up and stuff, right? But that's awesome. But like we say in this community, that does not help a single disabled person whatsoever. When it comes to renting, it's just an obsolete idea here in Ontario anyway, whether you're a renter or a homeowner, because as you just pointed out, $100,000 ain't shit when it comes to home ownership. And also, people that don't own a home, I don't know how they're expected to accumulate one with income of like $1,300 a month. It just doesn't add up. So definitely, there has to be change. There has to be change across the board.
Yeah. And I mean, I do own my home, and I consider myself extremely fortunate. The only reason why I do is because I got a few very well high-paying jobs early on in my career, and the same with my first wife, and so together we pooled our finances together and we were able to do it. But I mean, of course, now I've transitioned over to PWD income assistance, and I mean, good luck. Like everybody knows, you can't accumulate any wealth at all on assistance, and I mean, you shouldn't really be able to accumulate wealth. I mean, I think that's a given, but at least make some headway and not be in dire poverty, though, right? So
well, it's even true down in the States, right? It's like I talked to a couple of people in a group this morning, and especially some, I would call them special people with special needs that live in their parents' basements, for example, and they have no way out because they can't rent, they can't buy, and there's no skills, there's nothing to go to school for, right? So I am definitely going to be listening intently to all the points made here today.
Yeah. Let's transition over to the. Unless you had a comment, do you have a comment?
I'll comment on the Liberal Party. Just a quick overview. Same thing. Kind of what we've been just talking about there, and like echoing what you were saying about that. You almost took the words out of my mouth there. So I guess we're all kind of synchronized on kind of analyzing the Liberal Party too. As sure, give people a loan. I mean, great. But how are they going to pay it back on when they're on government assistance or ultra low income? I mean, if they aren't disabled or are they becoming disabled? My concern is that with the rents so high, I think there is that opportunity that the Liberal government's missing the point of basically excluding people with disabilities, right? Gee, wow. I mean, imagine if they actually did promise and fulfilled that agreement that they were supposed to get that Canada Disability benefit out there from day one. Well, I mean, people could then use some of that money, because cost of living is high, as we all know. But use some of that money, a big chunk of it, and put it down every month, and they could use it as a down payment to buy a home. Well, I mean, rocket science, eh? So that's Yeah, let's move on to the conservative one, and then we'll.
Yeah, unless you had a follow-up comment, MJ. Did you have a follow-up comment?
No, I was looking at the NDP one and I was really disappointed. We'll get to that in a minute.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
well, let's do the conservative first. Yeah.
Okay. I'll read it out here.
Okay.
Rename the disability tax credit to certification of disability, make it automatic to increase ease of access. From what I understand that's being talked about with this is if you're on provincial disability, he wants to make it so that you've already paid your dues, you filed the paperwork with the province. So why do you need to file it again?
Yeah.
Right? See, here's another thing is when you people forget that this paperwork for the disability tax credit can take up to an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours, or whatever it is, or more, for a single doctor to fill out.
Yeah.
Now, how many patients can they see in that time? I mean, what we have here is a government that creates the shortage of doctors by putting paperwork in the way of doctors that takes away from them seeing patients. So this is one of the reasons why I went and slowly came over to the idea of universally available basic income, slogan behind me, that alleviated all of this government paperwork that was there, because this makes more sense to me. I don't know how the refundable caregiver tax credit would work. We're just going from just a summary notes here. Expand the ready and willing and able employment program to help 4,000 people with autism and intellectual disabilities find and retain jobs. Okay. That's all well and good, but you have to remember that there's a lot of businesses out here, and I'm going to be bluntly honest, that don't have time and don't have the patience to deal with people that are disabled.
That's 100%
in any way,
true,
shape, or form.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I've been told by people, go out and get a job. And I said, yeah, when in 25 minutes after I get to work, I screw my back up and I tell my boss, I got to lie down. You're fired.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Like,
So that makes no sense. To me, it does make sense. I mean, but most of these jobs that they're talking about are like sweeping the grocery store or picking up garbage somewhere. So they're kind of going to sound like they'd be make work jobs in a way.
Yeah.
That just have to be invented. Right? I mean,
I
know
wheel.
right. I know people with disabilities can stock shelves. However, right, there becomes a point where people will make the decision of you're just too slow to go meet the metrics we need to be able to get the store stocked in a certain amount of time.
I don't want my high water mark as a job to be a Walmart greeter. That's not my end all and be all in as a job opportunity. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So training 1,000 autism support workers to support students, families, and schools. Okay. That's part of healthcare in a way, and that falls under provincial jurisdiction, Section 92. Unless they plan to go and use Section 9111, which is marine hospitals, which I don't think they intend to. Require plain language and laws and housing regulations so they're easier to understand and follow. Well, I don't know how they're going to do that, as that's federal jurisdiction.
Interesting.
I mean that's provincial jurisdiction. Housing rules, which like Tenancy Act, that's provincial. It's not federal.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. But they can go and state federally. Actually, no, wait. The federal government can use peace, order, and good government, a little section of the Constitution, to supersede provinces at any time. It's a little thing in there people don't know about. For anything that's in Section 92, which is a provincial jurisdiction, at any time if it's of a national interest.
Now, they can override that then, basically.
Yes, because the provinces have been failing drastically, and the territories
What?
at the same time. It now could feasibly consider rising to a federal jurisdiction. Feasibly. For a lot of these things that I say that are provincial, they could feasibly come to a federal jurisdiction because of a failure of the provinces or a majority of the provinces. So you have to understand, when I say something, there's always caveats in our system.
Yeah.
All right. I like I'm looking at the NDP. I don't know if
before you go to the NDP, can I just say that first one for me, the very first bullet point of the disability tax credit. You only need to fill out the form once, or what I should say is that the provinces already have all the information, so you don't need to be filling out crap load of other forms. You know what I mean? That to me is a full bingo card there. Like that's a big ticket item for that first bullet point. Anyway, let's go down to.
Well, actually, yeah, let's just discuss that for a moment. That is a big ticket item because that'll save people with disabilities, mostly us, the aggravation of having to go to our doctor, get them to fill out the paperwork, and fill it out properly so we get approved, right? So if that solves that problem, we've now probably feasibly, I think there's about 2 million people that are considered disabled. Also, there's 2.5 million people in the vicinity of welfare, disability, and all other government services servicing people of low income, disability, and so forth. So I look at the numbers, right? So when it comes to making things easier for us, this is good. Now let's go to the NDP.
Well, actually, we'll jump over to Dan on your
Dan
on the
Sorry, Dan.
Conservative Party, and then I'll quickly have a quick overview of it, and then we'll go to the NDP and we'll do the same thing for each
and actually, maybe after we finish with the Conservatives, can we then go to the screen share of the Poilievre video, or do you want to leave that until after this one? I don't know if it would make sense to jump to that video right after.
Maybe just go through this first, and then
okay,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
We'll go with that first.
And I'm totally good following the lead, man, because I'm learning some things I don't know too, right? And that's what it's all about, is to learn what you don't know to make an informed decision, right? Straight up, I'll just tell you and the public straight up. There's something I don't like about Pierre Poilievre. There's something just about his message or lack thereof that he's been putting across the past couple of years that makes him sound like a real dick. Same thing goes for Doug Ford, right? What he's done to the disability community here in Ontario has been atrocious. Nobody knows what to do now. Nobody understands. And what the community who is coming back and saying, well, just go to fucking work or just earn more money. What they got to realize, and what everybody else in the government's got to realize, is there's varying levels of disability. So whereas my physical body still works, I can still do that. My mental capacity is a totally different story. Whereas it might be something different for somebody like Neil, who's in a chair, and or anybody else that has any physical disability whatsoever.
Well,
it's education.
Disabilities change in a state of flux too. Like in my case, I mean, I was on crutches for over 50 years, no problem, and then all of a sudden, you have that fall, break your hip, and then all of a sudden it's a game changer, right? And now you've got a disability on top of a disability, and that's a real thing. And also just aging too. When you age with a disability, it means you have a greater disability on top of an existing disability because of your aging situation. So there's all that.
So I'll dive in quickly regarding the CPC, unless Dan, you're done with that discussion on it.
No, I'm good. You guys are the policy guys, and I'm more of the guy that has the on the streets abilities and has the knowledge to do that. So I have no problem listening to the parts here.
Okay. All right. So my overview is I'm looking at the platform of the Conservative Party of Canada. The big ticket item that really wows my attention is the automatic transition for the DTC, right? The disability tax credit that so many people know about. I mean, in the disability community and their allies across Canada, and I mean, doctors, I mean, they're well aware of it, and they're practitioners. I mean, it's time consuming. Why I know that is my family doctor. I mean, he's long retired now, so I don't have a GP. But he refused to fill out that disability tax credit once upon a time. Why? Because he said it was very time consuming. He says, I got to deal with patients. He was a surgeon too, so he worked in the hospital. So he was back and forth between the hospital and also in his own clinic, a whole waiting room full of patients. And he says, and you want me to fill out a disability tax credit? He said, the pages, major pages and pages. He says, it's not just filling out. I got to re-diagnose you as a person with disability. You're already diagnosed in BC, Brent. He says, what, you have to prove yourself that you're more disabled and just to make a federal disability? I go, apparently. No. He says, that's a waste of my time. End of story. Done. He says, no more topic on that. So yeah, with the CPC saying that they're going to automatically include people, it's almost like what the Green Party, which we'll be getting to in a little bit, what they kind of wanted to kind of go with that narrative. Now, I think that was kind of what the NDP kind of wanted to see happen, but unfortunately, the Liberal Party, they were dragged their heels 5 years later, and we're still here at the disability benefit still hasn't come out, but it's going to go up to $200. But of course, that's going to get into the next topic of the NDP, because they're going to be doubling the rates.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. So I mean, I guess to end the conclusion on the CPC is that was the big wow part that stood out to me, that people were going to be automatically included. But how many hoops, I don't know. I mean, are they going to be automatically okay getting on that? Do the provinces, I guess I have a couple of question marks on it. Is the provinces going to say, yes, okay, yeah, you can automatically allow them to get onto this program without applying for the disability tax credit? And that's expensive too. I mean, too, it's,
Well, one of the things is we have to understand jurisdiction. The provinces have already determined you're disabled.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, like you said a moment ago, now you had to go to your doctor and he has to redetermine that you're disabled. What's the point of that?
Yeah.
Right. That's the problem.
No point.
And the words that came out of his mouth, I mean, I won't even repeat, but I mean, I learned a lot of new language back then. Yeah.
Okay. Getting to the NDP.
Okay.
Doubling the disability Canada Disability Benefit to $2,400 a year. Now, thoughts?
That
sounds good. Do I believe it? I don't know.
That's like saying, what kind of whipping cream do you want on top of that meringue pie?
It kind of reminds me of that of a quote from it was actually a good movie. It's called I can't remember the movie, but his quote was, that white speck on the top of a pile of bird shit is still bird shit, right? That's kind of where we're at here. It's like $2,400 means nothing to people with disability.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but it's like making the disability tax credit refundable and automatic. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Right? Like how, it's already refundable. It's already a deduction and exemption in the tax code that says, oh, well, you're exempt to earn X amount of money more. Right. Yeah. So, and then here's the thing. Restoring the Federal Ministry for People with Disabilities. I have one question. Will disability people, persons with disabilities, be employed within this ministry?
Right.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah.
That's my question. If a disabled person is not being employed and it's all going to be able-bodied individuals working in a ministry of people with disabilities, then we are doing exactly the same thing we got going on at the provincial level.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we have a minister of disabilities that had a disability, a federal minister?
We did.
No,
I think we did.
We did.
No, we had a provincial one.
Well, we had a provincial one, but we also had a federal one.
Yeah, we had a federal one until they tossed her out. And
Carla Qualtero, yeah.
Yeah.
And she was shown the curb, and why? Because she was doing too much good for people with disabilities. Stop doing your job, Carla. Stop doing your job.
She was trying to better the benefits just for our listeners and our viewers, the Canada Disability Benefit, when it was first introduced, was supposed to be modeled after the Guaranteed Income Supplement for seniors. And that was the model, the GIS. So that was the model. And so the amount, when Mr. Singh, the leader for the NDP, was asked, there was a video that's circulating out on social media. Look for the video. I don't know if I can find it, but there was a video that was a reporter or a journalist, an independent journalist. He asked a question to Mr. Singh during COVID, and he asked about the Canada Disability Benefit. And he said, how much? And he goes, $2,400. Well, he didn't say per month. He didn't say per year. He said $2,400. So that could be misconstrued as $2,400 per year. So now, if that was $2,400 per year, and that was back then, so that now, if that's the case, so now that's how the Canada Disability Benefit was modeled. Now it was $200, up to $200 a month times 12 is $2,400. So I'm thinking, wow, like if that was the case, it's not a good look. I'm hoping that maybe it was just a a clerical error, and I still think that when it was promised as $2,400 a month, I think they forgot to put that zero on the end, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
I
Okay,
think so.
and the final one from the NDP is support universal pharmacare and dental care.
Oh,
Well, as
Yeah.
people with disabilities that are on the provincial system, we already have, I
we
do
already
believe,
have it.
most, if not all, of our medication paid for,
Yeah,
and we also get dental care. It's
Yeah.
not the perfect dental care.
no,
It's for, and my thing is they would, for the dental care that they provide us at the provincial level, it's like to pull the tooth instead of going and doing actual work on it. It's cheaper, and they want to take the cheapest route, right? So, yeah, I mean, so I don't know. I mean, me personally, I would just rather have the right to be able to go and get an extra, a couple $100 a month to pay for insurance that I could go and put, that would cover all these things,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? The way that the way they keep playing these games of all this is just nuts.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the Green Party.
well,
This is
we'll get
Dan is wearing his green jacket. You're on the what is it? The LGPA tour or whatever, the golf tour.
No, it's actually
with the green jacket.
It's the only suit jacket I own, right? I unfortunately I have nothing NDP here, right? I got liberal buttons, I got PC flags there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the platform of the NDP, quite simply, is the platform of a man that's retiring at the end of this election.
Yeah.
Jagmeet Singh, sorry, not Jagmeet. For those that don't know, Jagmeet Singh is a person that's put in his time. Like MJ has said, it's great to have healthcare and dental care, but this is all shit we already support, right? I just feel that he personally has done nothing for the country. Not nothing. I would say next to nothing over the past few years. And I think you're going to see at least two of the leaders in this election go bye-bye.
yeah.
Well, it could be three. You never know.
It possibly could be three. It
Or
possibly
could be four even. You never know. I mean,
I'll give my quick observation of the NDP one too of the platform, and we'll move on to the green one, green platform. So the NDP, as we all know, they ran with the supply and confidence agreement with the Liberal government, the federal Liberal government during before the election. Every opportunity of holding them to account. The bill that was it Bill C-22 that had the Canada Disability Benefit in it, and the dental and the healthcare, all that stuff. It was all embedded into the one bill. I still think that the Canada Disability Benefit should have been out of that bill. It should have been its own separate bill. They could have then ran with it and actually increased it up. But because they had it embedded in there, if they didn't agree with the Liberal government, of course, they would have just tossed that whole thing. So that's why they said their hands were tied. They had to support the Liberal government and go with that $200. I don't know. I still think they could have just had it in a separate bill.
Well,
with it, or made it as per the agreement of supply agreement, saying if you don't do this, then we won't going to support the government. I think doubling it. In a platform that they wanted to win more votes, or they could have said, if you vote for us, we're going to commit to how the Canada Disability Benefit was supposed to be modeled from the beginning of the GIS. But only doubling it, I think it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, I think that as Dan said, it's like a party that's just on the outs.
Yeah.
I think personally, the supply and confidence agreement has done the most damage I've ever seen to a political party in the history of political parties in this country.
Yeah.
He stuck with the Liberals even after the Liberals went and ordered 5 major unions back to work, right?
I remember that.
Like Canada Post, the trains, the ports. These are not small unions, right?
Yeah.
And all these different things. And he still supported him. And it's like, now we have unions out there supporting the CPC. And that's not a joke.
I know.
Because they don't feel that the NDP represents the union worker anymore. And that is what Jagmeet has done. So when it comes to every idea that they have, it's toilet paper at this point.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's sad.
it's a missed opportunity on so many levels. I mean, and I'm glad that you guys were talking about the dental care, because like provinces, I mean, yeah, they have their own dental care for PWD in their own province. Maybe it's tweaked a little bit differently in the different provinces, but they already have that program set. So having the other one, you can't have both. You have to have one or the other. And yeah, it's, I mean, for some people, it's great. They're able to take care of advantage of that program nationally, what they did run with. And so, I mean, kudos on them on that part. But the other part, yeah, there was, I think you're right. I think he was saying, okay, you know, my time is up as a leader. Yeah, I think
he just wanted his federal pension, so because now he has a provincial pension from the province of Ontario.
Yeah.
Now he wanted his federal one, so you know he's got a cushy thing for life. I mean, so nice.
Yeah, exactly. And
I don't know about you guys out there in BC, but our NDP parties here in Ontario and surrounding the city, no matter what you think about Olivia Chow or not, like our parties and candidates here are actually pretty good. They're pretty decent here. There was two that I really liked that I thought might have run for the federal party, including Dr. Jill Andrew, which would have been a great pick for our area here in Toronto. But yeah, when it comes to push comes to shove, it's over for them.
Yeah, and that's what I noticed, that there's a big difference between the federal NDP and the provincial NDPs. Like, there's some like really awesome NDP that are here provincially, but they lost a lot. I mean, they lost like 50% of the NDP in BC in our last provincial election.
Well, there's a couple of good federal ones too. Let's
yeah,
be honest.
Absolutely too. Yeah, there are.
But yeah.
Some of them are actually facing that they may not have their seats, which should be very unfortunate for the federal election. I'm hoping that, you know, for their sake, that they do retain their seats. There's certain prominent ones in BC that they need to maintain their seats in order to basically have party status in the federal election after. So, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Let's move on to the Green Party, unless anyone wants to.
No, we're finished beating up on the NDP. No. Okay, let's see. Fully funded Canada Disability Benefit and expanded eligibility to make sure more people qualify. Well, I like this. I like this. I think if they combine it with what the Conservatives had going on, I think we could simplify things. Reform the DTC so it's accessible, automatically applied, and fair. Simplify eligibility rules, produce plain language application materials, and allow more healthcare professionals to certify applications. So, in other words, you're still talking about using healthcare professionals, taking time away from healthcare professionals, which I personally disagree with. I have this problem with governments going and forcing medical professionals to have to take, you know, hours and hours away from seeing patients to fill out government paperwork, which you know, perpetuates the situation of lack of doctor accessibility and lack of doctors.
Yeah, right? Kind of, I had just mentioned about regarding my own GP would refuse to do it. Like, too much time. Don't have time. Yep. Time is money, right? I mean, every patient equals a certain quota, a dollar amount. So yeah, I mean, it's huge, especially when they got all that overhead, MJ. I mean, and people don't understand how when doctors have to run their own clinics, it's a lot of money. I mean, you're talking a few dollars. I mean, a lot.
Well, you got to remember that all the staff there is being paid for by the doctors seeing patients. Yeah. Right. You know, a lot of people don't understand that these are their own practices, which is in fact to their own business. Plus, they need to go and get massive amounts of insurance.
Oh yeah.
Right. To go and cover their practice. You know, so people don't realize how expensive it is for doctors.
Well, it seems to me too that ever since COVID, I think the amount of paperwork for doctors has gone up a lot. There's been more and more paperwork since COVID that doctors are spending less time seeing patients and a shitload more time on paperwork. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why a lot of them have left the province too.
Yeah. Anyway, let's keep going.
Okay, let's see here. Supporting disabled workers with clear job protection rules. You can create the federal laws. They can create federal laws for this. That's not a problem. it supersedes provincial authority to do that. That's not a problem. I don't see a problem with this. Technically, there already are discrimination laws at federal and provincial levels. However, I'm going to put the however in, is if you're discriminated against and you are fired, because our Human Rights Commission is now almost 2.5 to 3 years behind because of COVID. Good luck.
Human rights.
Yeah.
Wow. That's an interesting topic.
You're right.
When it's talking about job protection rules, you kind of wonder how much of that statement is just talking about quotas. Like we're going to increase the quotas of how many people with disabilities will actually hire. From 10% to 15% or whatever it is, right? I wonder how much of that is the actual answer in that bullet point.
Well, it's on how many applications are getting brought in, and then they'll look through and they'll say, oh, okay, X amount, certain people are qualified, other people aren't qualified, but they've got all these ones going through, and so they'll have a quota. And if they meet that quota, the actual employer, some of them will actually get paid a certain bonus for bringing so many applicants, eh?
So, in other words, what we're having here is we're having the government going and paying people to go and employ people with disabilities. Translation, in other words, what we have here is we're going to have another government ministry to go and approve all these applications to ensure that these people will be employed.
Yeah.
In other words, more government.
More bureaucracy, red tape. Yeah.
Introduce automatic tax filing for low-income people to get all their benefits. I think we should just simplify the tax code across the board and be done with that and be happy.
Nobody pay taxes. Solution.
It's just we've created this onerous system. It's like, for example, did you know that we have 60,000 CRA employees? That's one for almost 750 persons in Canada. That's even more than what it is in the States for the IRS.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's insanity.
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting on that, MJ, is so Revenue Canada, when people file their taxes, so Revenue Canada already has all that information from the employers or from any income source. They already have all the paperwork. So then they want the person to file their tax so they can compare that what you're filing, what they already have on file. So it's like a double standard there. Wow, they're just waiting for you to confirm the information that they already have on file. It's like, wow. So it's like creating more bureaucracy there. You know what I mean?
It is.
I mean, Revenue Canada explained that to me one time where, we've already got the information. We just want you to confirm the information that we would have on file. Just give me a second. I go, oh, yep, that's what we have. Yeah. Oh, wow.
So in other words, we're wasting our tax dollars when it could be automated.
Yeah.
Translation.
Let's go to MAiD now. This is interesting that the Green Party is the only one listed that talks about MAiD, which is anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, considering that I went and sang to that song before the show.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. How ironic.
Pausing the planned expansion of MAiD for mental illness until adequate mental health care and social supports are in place. I truly do agree with this. I think that MAiD should be truly rolled back, and should be for people that, not for people that are disabled, that can, where the government is not giving them the money. That's insane. We should be given enough money to be able to live, instead of thinking that MAiD, because we're disabled, is the only answer left. And that, I think, in my opinion, not only violates human rights, but in my personal opinion, I'm just saying very personal, it's genocide.
It is.
Against persons with disabilities. Yeah. That's what it's about. And if that's the plan, that means that we're no better than that political party that won an election back in 1933 in Germany.
Well, I've said this before, but there's that movie Gattaca, and Gattaca isn't really it's not a hard hammer across the head about it's not really talking about MAiD or genocide per se, but it when you really look at that movie, it really has a lot of tentacles in those areas, and it really is very eye-opening. I really encourage anybody that's never seen it to watch that movie. It's Gattaca. It's an old movie. It's when did it come out? Like early 90s, I think.
Early 90s. It was a great movie.
It was a great movie. Had Jude Law in it and who else? But very, very good movie. It should be required watching for all levels of government, to be honest, because it really kind of highlights the
have and have nots.
The have and have nots, exactly, 100%. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. And Dan, what is your take about the Green Party platform, or do you have any observation? If not, I'll jump in and give you my overview of it too.
Oh, sorry. Do they have one?
Yeah.
The biggest, jokes aside, the biggest problem for me with the Green Party is quite simple. I like most of their points. I like that they've always been a supporter of those with disabilities, fighting for more money, more housing, this and that. But when reality push comes to shove, whether it's the right answer or the wrong answer, when you have 3 people in a party, it's not much you can do as a government, right? MAiD sucks. MAiD sucks for anybody. I agree with it if you have major health issues and such like that you have no opportunity to come back for, and it's your choice. But yeah, I agree with you guys on the giving it to those that are just poor, that don't have the means to survive. I mean, we all came, as as forward as this will sound, at one point or another, we all came from a uterus, and we had the opportunity to be disposed of back then if we had any disabilities, and it was whatever, not allowed, and now you want to kill me, but you don't want to give me enough to live.
Yeah.
I think they're called now. I think some of these special interest groups are calling it post-term abortion.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll move on from that because we could get very dark about this for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll give you my quick overview of it. Pretty well what you guys have all been saying about the Green Party. So I pretty well echo that. I think the Green Party, a lot of wonderful advocacy that they've done over the time before the election. And if they do manage to get another seat or a couple seats in, if they continue on the advocacy for persons with disabilities in Canada, wonderful. I really appreciate all the advocacy they've been doing, especially making sure that, they wanted to make sure, should we say, making that the DTC was not a requirement. Shame on the federal liberal government for not following through with that. I know Mike Morris, MP for Kitchener, Ontario, very strong advocate when it came to that point, and that he had that commitment set. And I was furious when I heard that the people who made that decision of not going with what he had, he was recommending these things, and he said they were passed. And I'm like, wonderful. And I think he got was it Neil? I think he got 5 or 6 things passed within all his recommendations. I thought, this is wonderful. I thought, wow, the Canada Disability Benefits finally going to see fruition here. And then, boom, they just pulled the Liberal government pulled the rug from underneath him. That must have been so devastating. I could just imagine what Mike must have been thinking at the time. Of course, he didn't come out and say, and I don't blame him for saying how he felt. But he must have been so devastated when he fought all that hard fight, right? We call the fight night, right? So I think that, they have a lot of good pointers when it comes to MAiD. Give people the proper financial support. We are all Canadian citizens. We're residents in our own provinces.
Well, another thing in the list there, Brent, is launch a guaranteed livable income. And again,
exactly,
that's the only platform on the list here that mentions guaranteed livable income.
Yeah, and that was supposed to be it's modeled like the, after the GIS, right? Seniors, people with disabilities, a lot of people are low income. If they're working and they become disabled, and they will over time, people develop more disabilities or they more impairments over time. As Neil, what you've gone through, and Sonia goes through, I go through, MJ, you go through, and Dan, you same as you. Everybody, there's so many people that it affects in life. And then a lot of people, they don't talk about it in their life, right? I mean, I see people in my community, and some people, like, I didn't even know this one guy. He's got a lot of disabilities, but he doesn't have a GP to diagnose his disability. He said he should be on provincial disability. I go, you don't want to be on that because it's the government who likes to go a couple of years, skip a year or whatever. But he said to get onto this Canada disability benefit. He goes, how the hell would I even qualify? I go, that's the good question, right?
Yeah.
So I think with the Green Party, what their recommendation is kind of like what the Conservatives said, automatic, right? So I think those two are the ones that are saying, hey, it'll be interesting what happens in the federal election going forward. But I think the opportunity is making sure people have the proper financial means for day-to-day life and lift people up out of legislative poverty in Canada. I mean, my gosh, just tax the billionaires a little bit. I mean, and they won't even feel it. And I think that's, well, I guess a lot of questions that people would say, well, how the hell are they going to pay for this Canada disability benefit? Easily. It's already paid for, right?
Well, see, if you want to jump into that for a quick second, and we'll do it a quick second. It's not taxing them more, it's removing the tax credits that they get, right? Right. See, here's the thing a lot about people don't understand quickly about the tax system is the more money you make, the more accessibility you have to their tax credits and be able to use them in full. As for poor people, the rest of us that don't have the ability, you can't go and make a donation to a church or a tax or a political party because you just don't have the money to be able to go and enjoy these tax credits. So for most of us that are poor, these tax credits are completely useless, complete uselessness to us. Now, that's the problem. Moving on.
What I wanted to I mean, we've been on the podcast. It's basically an hour, so we want to start wrapping up. But I did want to play that one video clip, and again, this happens to be Pierre Poilievre, but and it's not me playing favorites. I just wanted to play it just to prove that there's a lot of parties that aren't necessarily talking about disability issues, and the fact that Pierre Poilievre was talking about his own disabled daughter, and that was my first kind of knowledge of it, and it's like it's kind of soft, like put out there kind of, you know. And I can say the same thing about here in BC, and I'm sure even for you, Dan, in Toronto there, there's a lot of politicians that I wish that they would be more upfront. Like, for example, again, like our BC Conservatives here, like the leader here basically didn't release his full platform at all until after the election. He released the platform after the I mean how is that helpful? How is that helpful, right? And so again, we're gonna play the Pierre Poilievre piece, and not to say that he should be like putting this on blast or whatever. I'm not saying that, but I just wish more politicians would be more upfront about their platforms and not hide a whole bunch of crap. And I was very kind of just impressed and pleased that Pierre Poilievre did talk about his daughter. Anyway, go ahead and play it. And
I will share it, and we got on the screen.
Has becoming a parent changed what you think
audio?
is important for the future of Canada?
Yes, it has. We have two great kids. We've got little Cruz. He's 3 years old. He's very ambitious, curious, inquisitive, and I know that he's going to do great whatever he does. I think he'll be a merchant or something. He likes to trade. If he wants something from you, he'll pick something else up and bring it over and offer it as a trade. So maybe he'll be a commodities trader or something. And then little Valentina, she has some special needs. She's 6 years old and she's nonverbal right now. And so she has a hard time communicating with us. But we've learned to take her cues and really celebrate the raw authenticity that she has. She's she's totally real. Like what you see is what you get. And that's what I love about her. She has none of the, the games that people play to put on an air of this or that feeling. She's just like, you get exactly what's inside her is what comes out of her. And what's special about that is when she gives you that burst of love, it's like really powerful. But I also think about like, what's her life going to be like? How is she going to pay her bills when she's older? What will her life look like when she's 60? And I probably won't be around by then. I was a late bloomer. I think I was 39 when we had her. So when she's up in her years, I won't be there. So I think about how do we build up a nest egg for her so that she can have a good life. And then I think about a lot of other families that are perhaps not as fortunate as us who have a child with a disability. How do they pay their bills? And so I think it's given me a lot more empathy to the different challenges and hardships that families have to fight through.
There's a lot going on in everybody's world, and we only see what goes on in our world.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. So I think having kids and experiencing some of those challenges, it helps you to empathize with other people who are out there and fighting their own battles.
Yeah. So
Wow.
Again, we're almost going to be.
That got me a little misty.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
again, like, it's not to say that he had to put that on blast but I'm just surprised that I didn't know that about him. And
Either.
now that I know about him, it does color my opinion of him like a lot. It makes me feel differently towards him. Even, yeah, you know what I mean.
Especially when Pierre Poilievre's concerns are for his children when they grow up. Are they going to have enough money to put to basically pay for the cost of living? And I mean, I'm hoping that the provincial governments are actually listening to that, because again, opportunity of taking care of your citizens, and that provincial or federal. Like, if you're gonna promise something or commit to something, follow through with it, and don't do baby steps or kick the can down the road. Like, you're gonna say you're gonna do something, then do it. Like,
and he does acknowledge that he is privileged. He says, I'm in a privileged position. He says, I realize that
not everybody.
My situation is different than a lot of other people, but he says, I still worry about that.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. Because I mean, a person is who they are. Like, they can't change on who they are as much as a politician may want the person to change and mold themselves to what they want the person to do. You can't. So you are your own individual person. And I always use the phrase of, well, like, live the life of that person with a disability for a while, and then what they're going through, and nobody can, right? So you have to accept the person for who they are and just go with it. That was a very powerful video, by the way.
Do we have closing comments from Dan or MJ before
yeah.
we clock
We'll
out?
start here as devil's advocate here. It doesn't sway me about my opinion of him, and quite simply, I'll just say, I feel for any person, man, woman, whoever, that has a child with disabilities and such. And if you're showing love and compassion for your child, that's great. But the fact of the matter is, and I'm just being real here, just my 2 cents. He's been around for 20 years, and not only have all four of us agreed that we've never heard him speak of his daughter in this term before.
Yeah.
Not only did we not know he had a disabled child, but he's not done dick for the disabled community in all the 20 years he's been here. So for me, that heartwarming thing, and like MJ said, it does bring a little tear to your eye, because nobody wants a child to suffer in life. But when it comes to the election and the importance of this in the election, he hasn't talked about it in 20 years, so it doesn't sway me on my personal opinion about it.
It hasn't affected him for 20 years. It has only affected him for the last 6, right? So
and that's a fair point. Thank you for correcting me on that. It has only been 6
I mean, you don't think about these things until it happens to you, right? I mean, let's be honest. How many of us grew up with disabilities, right? I mean, I knew I had something wrong with me, but I didn't know what, right? And it wasn't, and that was just I'm one of these people that has this a brain that says, if you mandate me to do this, my answer will always be F you. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? You tell me that S is required. No, that's F you. Right? So, I mean, when it comes to being disabled, I mean, you don't think about it until it happens to you, or you grow up with it, or you have a child that's disabled and you go, oh my God.
Like,
Now I have to think about these things.
hmm
And yeah, that frame changes a frame for a lot of people. I mean, I'll say, I mean, I respect Dan's choice to vote for whoever makes, you know, he feels he wants to vote for. I mean, I've made my choice. I voted Conservative. I have no problem with that. I didn't know about this. I mean, but here's the thing, is I'm one of these people that when it comes to Canadians, your first duty should be to the Canadian citizens, right? Then it should be to go ensuring that the economy is working for these same Canadian citizens and all the things down the line. And, you know, this is just a little snippet of the Conservative platform. This is just a little snippet of the NDP platform and a little snippet of the Greens and the Liberals that we pulled out today. Just a very little snippet. Now, saying all of that, that's a lot of reading and information to go through for deciding which and how you want to go and place your vote, right? And that's a big decision. Make the one that's best for you. That's all I have to say. Make the one that's best for you.
Go vote.
It's not my place to tell you who to vote for, but I will say it is my place to tell you, you should do your civic duty if you can and vote, because without your voice, we allow radical ideas and radical people to get elected to go and put their voice and their ideas front and center stage. In the last election, 10.3 million people stayed home and did not vote. We're seeing record-breaking changes this election. We have 2 million more people that have voted in advance polling because they feel that there's importance that they can't describe. So to me, vote. That's all I ask of people that listen to this. Take the time to vote for whichever party suits you and what you feel is the best vote for you.
And for
because
those that were listening to, for those that were listening to the audio, I just wanted to acknowledge that Dan was waving his flag, so he was being very nonpartisan there. So that's good.
You know what? When push comes to shove, after we could talk here for hours and hours on end because we all have different opinions. But when push comes to shove, it goes to what MJ just said.
Yeah.
Vote.
Yeah.
Vote.
Because well, exactly, because one key point thing here, people, even as a disabled person, we have that right to vote. In other countries, disabled people don't get that right. Most people in other countries don't get that right, you know, to a free and fair and honest election. We have that here. In Elections Canada ensures their best to go and ensure that it's done right. So at least get out and vote, please. That's all I beg. Please vote.
Thank you on that one, MJ, and I'll comment too on that. Is you know, every vote counts. Every vote counts in Canada. Our democracy allows us, you know, to allow every Canadian citizen to vote. And I echo what you just mentioned, Dan and MJ, on that. Just vote, like what you mentioned, Dan. Vote, 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 and that's exactly it. I want people to, you know, get out there and show your right to vote for whatever party that best suits your needs. Yeah, I mean, we all can vote for whoever we want, who we feel is best going to suit our needs. Is it you're voting for the candidate or you voting for the party, whatever it may be. But just definitely don't not vote and say, oh, well, it doesn't matter. My vote doesn't count. I mean, they're going to win anyway. You get out there and you vote and say, you know what?
One vote.
I one vote, and I voted for
one vote can make a difference, folks.
Felt that, hey, I felt that party was going to best suit my needs. As a person with disabilities, I look as an overview, and I voted, advanced polling. I missed the advanced polling, but they had a special voting for Elections Canada, which I actually did vote on Tuesday. So they actually had Elections Canada one set up in Victoria, and the lineup was huge. All the way till 6 p.m. they had the voting as the last opportunity to vote before April 28th. And I couldn't believe that they lined up in there, and they said it was like about almost 3 hours long the day before.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, wow. And so I couldn't believe it. They said, yeah, the record amount of people have turned out because they want to see change.
Yeah.
I heard other viewpoints in the lineup. Like we had to go up a stairwell, so we had to climb upstairs, or they said, or you can take an elevator, but the elevator was extremely busy. So I just quickly made my way through and then up the stairs, and now you're standing in the stairwell, leaning against the rails. Okay, they had the doors open because it was getting so hot in there with so many people. So I'm just like, oh man, one step at a time. And I thought, one step at a time closer to voting, one step. And the actual process that they do now, it's all done by paper, envelopes upon envelopes, seal this envelope, and then they put another envelope, seal that, another envelope, seal. I'm going, holy jeez.
Do they get to take the ballot boxes home, Brett?
I hope it's counted right there. Don't take the ballot boxes home, anyone.
Yeah.
Just to conclude, with my comment as an overview of all the parties. What we shared today was a snippet of some of the topics that each party is covering for persons with disabilities. I see that narrative that they're spinning out there, that the working age, that has to change, everyone. Parties change that narrative. If they are able to, great. If they're not able to, provide them with no less than poverty level financial support. Because, we're all citizens. We should all have equal opportunity in supporting our communities or anywhere across the country. I want to see it barrier free. I want to see it so that a PWD I'll just use Alberta as an example, and nothing against the premier for Alberta. But if you don't want to support your conservative government in Alberta and you want to go to, you want to go to Ontario, well, now it's not a conservative government, but maybe you like the premier there versus the other premier, or you're in BC and you want to
go to Quebec.
Yeah, or you're in BC and you want to go to Manitoba, whatever. You should be able to go anywhere across the country that you want, and without applying again to determine that you still have a disability in another province. Mm-hmm. It should be transferable. Once you're disabled, you're disabled. It's like that Canada Disability Benefit. You should not have to apply again to basically prove that.
I'm pretty sure once I cross the border into Alberta, I'm pretty sure that my cerebral palsy goes away, Brent.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it goes away.
And see, right. That's the thing with like seniors, for instance. And I want everyone to understand this part. When a person is disabled and then they transition off of being the status as a person with disabilities, they become now onto the seniors supplement. You get your GIS, your OAS, your CPP, or whatever you may qualify for, right? But now you're magically able to go to any province that you want in Canada. But when you're PWD, no, you're not allowed to. How does that make sense? Actually, quickly before we end the podcast, what is your view on that one, Dan? How does that make sense? So you're PWD, you can't go to any province and live in another province as you're disabled. You can visit up to 30 days, or unless you have permission to stay longer, or now you're a senior, that you can stay as long as you want. You can go and live somewhere else. How does that make sense? So Dan first, and then MJ, and then Neil, your observation. Yeah.
I'll make it as quick as possible. Yeah. I never thought I'd laugh at a joke about CP, but I just feel like an asshole. No, bottom line, when push comes to shove, the direct reason I picked my apartment that I'm in right now, which is my forever home unless I win the lottery, is because everything is flat. So right into the building, no stairs. Right into the elevator, no stairs. So not if, but when I end up in a wheelchair, I'm set in that regard. I don't believe in the not being able to travel to province because I might have contacts in one province and then family in another, right? And you might want to visit your family for more than a month. I think when push comes to shove and closing, what it comes down to is this. Even if it's my friends down in the States and they know who I'm talking about because I'm poking fun at one particular person, but even if it's a loser that's laying in his mom's basement, that doesn't get out to work, that doesn't get out to go to the doctor or anything, get out to fucking vote, Ricky, because your vote does matter. The last time my candidate in my riding now went for a run, he lost by 156 votes. Mm-hmm. So your voice matters. Get out and vote.
Yeah, absolutely. A great comment on that, Dan. You summarized that really awesome. Thanks on that one. MJ,
Yeah, Ricky's not going to like that comment, but fuck Ricky.
well, Ricky, get out there and vote. Just get out there and vote. Your vote counts.
Well, it's one of the reasons why I came to support the idea of a universally available basic income and combining all these services together, whether it be welfare, disability, WCB, Canada Pension, child support, spousal support, all the federal programs, provincial programs, and throwing them in one basket and saying, if you need the money, take the money, right? Instead of sitting here trying to fight, oh, you're not disabled enough, but you can't move to Alberta because, you got to, no, none of this nonsense of you can't move here, you can't move there. Because if I could move to a province, and still keep the amount of money that I'm getting, and move for a different province or whatever it was, if it is done federally, then I would have, a lot of people with disabilities would be moving to other provinces to go and find a decent place to live or a place they could afford to go and buy and renovate just for them, right? Because for the most part, when it comes to everything, it's like, we'll see how many pink unicorns we have up here after this election.
So I got one right behind me.
Yeah, well, we'll pull up the pink unicorns as time goes on and see how many of them show up when it comes to all of this stuff. Now, to me, I personally believe that we should be, instead of making a person that's disabled suffer more by saying you can't earn income and you can't go and become a better yourself and you can't go back to school and you can't do this, you can't do that. Like in BC, if I want to go back to school, I lose my disability. Now that makes absolutely no sense. Yeah. That's completely the most illogical thing in the history of illogical that I've ever seen from a government. You're stuck here. You can't better yourself.
If you're going to better yourself, we're going to cut you off.
Exactly. Right. It's like, instead of going and abusing the citizens even more, the governments need to stop. And I think this is what this election is really starting to take a look at, is it's not just one group first or another group first, it's Canadians first. All Canadians. Not one Canadian, but all of them, or one group. Every one of us together.
Exactly.
We're all in this boat called Canada, folks. And it's heading over to Niagara Falls if things keep going the way they're going.
And I'm glad that MJ. I'm glad that MJ mentioned the unicorns. I didn't even have to pay you off to mention it. MJ.
No.
And that was good. That was going to be my closing comment. Is my answer to why all this still happens is I was going to get you to turn your head and acknowledge the unicorn there.
Unicorn.
But that's why a lot of this crap that goes on goes on because of that unicorn.
Unicorn is right here. It's living well, and hopefully they don't multiply after the election. I still am so skeptical when it comes to some of the politicians, federal or provincial, where they'll run with a narrative and saying, "Oh, I'm here for you. I hear you. Yeah." And then when they get in, they do a 360. And just before we end the show, so I had a recent meeting with the Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction in British Columbia, who is the minister in charge of that program. Sonia and myself met with her. We went to question period in the BC legislature, MJ and Neil and Dan, and the listeners. We just had some concerns regarding two topics, and the meeting was supposed to be short. It ended up being a lot longer. The minister got scolded by her staff because she knows us really well. She's very personable. But of course, so she got into in-depth of conversations, and one thing led to another on the conversations, right? Meeting ended up being a lot longer, and the staffers said, "Hey, minister, you got a meeting coming up here. Coming up. Yeah, okay. So fine, Then she kept talking longer and longer, kind of how we do our shows sometimes. Yeah. And next thing I know, another staffer came in, "Minister, you have a meeting? Like, you need to now wrap it up." And the first one said the same thing. Yeah. And again, 3 times. Finally, "Minister, you now have a meeting. You now have a meeting." And I said, "Oh, So she wrapped it up with us. What we talked about, which I'm sure the minister won't mind me saying, it wasn't anything confidential. It was more about housing. We talked about the rising cost of housing, market rent versus BC housing. Okay. the minister didn't know about the policies when it came to BC housing, apparently. She didn't know what the policies that if, say, MJ, say you knew somebody that needed housing, okay, and somebody else that needed housing. Those two people, maybe they don't know each other too well, or maybe they do. They can't just go it together into BC housing saying, I need housing. They need to be together in a relationship. The minister did not know the policy about.
Oh, I know. It's like, for example, if I were to go and have a female roommate, I would have to go and attest that we're not in a intimate relationship.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, in the way they've set these things up, it's like at every time you're going across, it's like going across the bridge over the canyon, and the wood planking has got holes in it. You're trying to jump through here and not fall through. Right.
Yeah.
This is what's happening to people with disabilities, is where we keep constantly falling through that bridge and landing in the river.
Yeah, and that's what the minister, had Bessie said, I didn't know that. Thanks for letting me know. I didn't know about the policy on that. But she also did say, I know numerous amount of people with disabilities who do live in BC housing that aren't together. I go, really? Well, that's not how the policy is, because I said I got off the phone with them and they told me distinctly that no, they have to be in a relationship, or they're a family, or they're fleeing violence. Then they can get in, or their place has been sold or condemned. So we talked on that topic. The other topic was regarding the rate increases. So the government, I got some good news, bad news. The bad news, I'll start with bad news first, is that there's no rate increase this year for PWD in the budget because the government said they're broke. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no money.
And I'm trying not to laugh on that one, because the government says they're broke. A government is broke. Really?
Okay.
That's
these
the first
people...
part. Yeah, that's the first part. And I'll quickly, then I'll get you to jump over to MJ. So the first part, they're broke. The second part was, I said, okay, so there's a call for a $300 increase from another advocacy organization, which we know who that is. And she goes, okay, and that's great. I echo, and I really appreciate his advocacy. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen this year because the government is broke, she said. So that narrative, I guess we're going to have to ramp up a rally, because a rally is going to be happening, very soon. So officially that'll be announced. But when the government says they're broke, I'll take it over to you, MJ, because you can steer the ship here.
Okay. Well,
Nice, everyone.
I don't know if anyone's ever played the game of Monopoly and read the rules.
I love the rules.
The rules of in Monopoly are the bank never runs out of money.
Free parking.
Right. In the rules, free parking, you never got actual money. That was always added by the players because we wanted to grift off the system.
I mean, it interesting, right? Yeah.
Right. But here's the thing. Is when it comes to the government saying they're broke, this is all misdirection and misnomer. Before Trudeau Sr., the Bank of Canada, the government used to say, well, we're overextended. We need to be able to do these projects. We need to take a 2% loan out from the Bank of Canada. And that was great. We did that. And we had a very stable country, and it was running very stable. And then somewhere after that, after Trudeau Sr., and I will say Sr., all the governments decided to move from going and getting loans directly from the Bank of Canada for their debt. It's like when they had to expand and didn't have the money, they went and started selling treasury bonds and so forth. Well, those have a higher interest rate that have to be paid to private entities, right? And my thing is this, is what our government needs to do is we need to roll back into what we used to do with the Bank of Canada and take loans directly from them. Now, Canada has that ability to do that. Other countries like the States don't, because their Federal Reserve is not owned by the government and the country. Ours is. So we have the ability to go and take all of this outstanding debt, refinance it at 2% or even at 0% if we really want to, because the federal government can set the interest rates on whatever they want to loan from themselves. Now, the thing is, when you start taking a look at all these details of how things can be solved, in saying that the government is out of money if the province of BC is paying $15 billion in interest every year to these treasury bonds, if these treasury bonds were bought out, paid out, sold out, and bought out, paid out, and owned by the government, and then they expired, and when we went back to taking a 2% loan from the Bank of Canada, even for the provinces, we would be able to go and say, take that 15 billion and lower that money down, and we would have a little extra money sitting in the coffers instead of this debt getting larger and larger. This is the same as the federal and the provincial governments, and now we are talking about approximately, I don't know, I think it's a couple $100 billion a year that is paid in interest across this nation.
Yeah.
Just for outstanding debt using the current treasury bond system. This is what we have being stolen from us in favor of allowing private entities to be involved in our debts. This is why we can't afford to help people with disabilities. Long story short.
Yeah. The minister also said that they're waiting on the federal government's the Canada Disability Benefit, and that's what they're waiting on this year. And so she encouraged us to apply for the Canada Disability Benefit. I said, well, I don't qualify for the DTC. Oh, I don't have a GP. And even if I did have a GP, like you have to meet the requirements. So the minister actually admitted that most PWD won't qualify for the Canada Disability Benefit. But hey, they're going to run with it in their platform, right? Because that's why they don't want to give the rate increase this year. And so just a little FYI to the viewers and listeners. So a little history, and I actually just Googled this actually, and it was funny. AI came up, and I said, well, when was the last time that the support rate got increased? Wow, it was actually gave me a pretty good summary. Yeah, you know what? I'll do that on air here. So what I'll do is I'll just Google it now, and I'll just give you the information. So
how long is this going to go, Brent? Because we do have to punch out.
Oh, this will only be just a few seconds here. When was the last?
I'm trying to keep you on task. I'm trying to keep you on task, Brent.
Support rates were increased.
Okay.
Well, AI comes up. The most recent increase to disability assistance PWD rates in BC occurred in April of 2021, with a permanent increase of $175 per month for individuals on income and disability assistance. This was the third increase since July of 2017. It says previously rates were increased by $100 in September of 2017 and $50 in April of 2019. Wow, so that's not 5 increases, that's only 4.
And that was after they gave us the $300 and then clawed it back.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that.
Yeah, see, that's what it kind of means. It says like the 175, right? But that's on the support portion. So and then when I asked Google about the shelter, it says in 2021. So that 175 was for support in 2021, and then 2 years later in 2023 was the shelter, which went from $375 up to $500. So that's the other $175. And then no increase since then. So people go, what? No increase? Yeah. So when you hear people talk about no increase in supports, technically, yes, there was no increase in supports since of 2021 of that 175, and no increase in shelter and since 2023. But here's the thing, you had to prove that your rent went up, and it didn't go to people in subsidized housing. So some PWD got it, other people didn't. Exclusion. Playing against PWD. Government, you got to stop doing that.
This is. I will say this quickly.
Yeah.
This violates Section 12 of the Constitution, and unfortunately, most people with disabilities don't have the money or wherewithal to be able to go and hire a firm to go and fight this and make this a court case with precedent to go and say, no, you cannot go and play PWD against PWD. Either we all get it or we don't get it. You can't create exclusionary tactics. We need a court ruling, but we don't have the, for us to go to court would take all of us on disability in BC to go and file in as a class action against the government to say, no, you got to stop playing us against each other.
We've actually had MLAs here in BC. I don't know about you there in Toronto, they're down, but here in BC, we've actually had MLAs, and the MLAs are the equivalent of the MPPs in Toronto, for those that don't know.
Not really.
We've actually had MLAs here say, to PWD is lawyer up, lawyer up.
Mhm.
Like I've seen that so many times where MLAs will say, if you have a complaint, lawyer up, you know, and it's like, I'm sorry, like I don't have the money or capability to lawyer up. Like maybe you do, I don't. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, and a good lawyer costs $1,000 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get
Right.
that there. Unfortunately, here there's nothing for single individuals to go at. What they do is they fund the legal clinics here, and that's how they pass it off as doing the right thing. Personally, I think in closing, what you need is the wrestling rule, the Triple H rule: housing, healthcare, and hunger. You take care of those three things, you'll have productive citizens that, if they're physically able to, will go out and work, and if they can't, they'll produce stuff for the community to better the community.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Love that.
you're fucked.
Yeah. Awesome on that, Dan.
We're gonna punch out now, though, right?
All right.
Like
Thank you, everyone. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Fight Night, the election 2025. Go out there and vote. Cast your vote. April 28th is the voting day, and that's the election day. Make your vote count, right? Because it will change everything going forward. It's going to be an interesting election. It's going to be a nail biter, one of those popcorn nights, I think, just to sit back and throw it at the screen, right? Just keep throwing the piece of popcorn at the screen.
I don't know. Do we want to do an election night show? And
well, I was gonna say that, like, we might want to come back on the Tuesday, the day after, and
we could do that.
Do like a post-op.
Yeah, let's do that.
On
Let's
Tuesday.
I could do that. Election night's a problem because I'm a scrutineer.
Yeah,
and
I think post-op would be better. Like a post-op on a
Tuesday.
Tuesday might be better.
Actually, Sonia suggested that to me too.
Yeah.
She said, Tuesday would be better. So why don't we do that? We'll come back and
All right.
give our overview of what happened. What happened? Right now, we're going to say, get out there and vote, because every vote counts. Please subscribe.
And the thumbnail for that one will be WTF. That'll be the thumbnail.
Yeah, instead of www.
That's right. MJ mentioned bridges earlier, and so I just want to sing out, like a bridge over troubled water,
that's Canada, my
I
friend.
will lay me down like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down. Okay.
Please subscribe, like, and share your content. We'll see you on the next show, day after Election Day. Take care, everyone.